Adam here from the Walser Automotive Group, and what I want to do today is take you on a test drive. So next to me here, I have the 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe Limited. So we'll look at the interior, some of the stuff on the outside, and then go for a spin around and see what it's like out on the road. All right, so now we're behind the wheel of the 2.5T Limited, so let's go for a little spin around. Now what's cool about the gear selector, it's actually a little knob just behind the steering wheel here. So it's a shift-by-wire system. So there's no longer like a big shifter in the center or up on the column. It's just this little knob behind the wheel here for drive, reverse, and park. So you can just click that and it frees up a ton of space for this little center console area. Now what's really cool about this, I've got my phone with me as we always do, and it's gonna have wireless charging on here, and I've got wireless Apple CarPlay as well as Android Auto. So I've got my iPhone hooked up, I've got my CarPlay, it's on the full touchscreen here. It's really sensitive, it's really easy to use, and the screen responsiveness is so quick. It feels like you're using a tablet versus some of the other manufacturers. It's a little pokey, it's a little slow, but I love this system. It works really well. Google Maps, Spotify, text messaging, all that good stuff is right in here. And this one will have the Bose sound system. So when I had my tunes going earlier, it does sound pretty awesome in here. Now you will also have some USB-C charger ports. So there's a couple up front, and for the rear passengers, there's actually some in the back of these front seats, and you even get some in the third row. Now what's cool about the new 24 Santa Fe is this is always going to come standard with a third row. So that wasn't the case with the previous gen, but for 24 it's completely changed, and it's a pretty awesome vehicle. Now the exterior styling, if we start there, is completely different and kind of goes away from the old Hyundai styling. There's a lot of H designs you'll notice. So whether that's the headlights that are LED with this really cool LED running light that runs through the front of the vehicle, or out back on those LED taillights, there's a bunch of cool styling features in this vehicle, and I think they did a really good job designing it. Kind of the boxy styling is really sort of the way of the future, and Hyundai really kind of nailed this one. I think for this price point, it's a really good looking truck, and it's going to give you a ton of equipment inside as well. So when I clicked on my blinker there, I actually have a little camera. So it shows you your blind spot when you're turning left or right. It pops up in your digital instrument cluster here, and it makes it really easy to see kind of around tight spaces or what's going on next to you. Now the driver display and layout here is incredible. It's one of the best systems out right now because it just works. It's right in your line of sight. So like I said, I've got my CarPlay on the one side, and then on the other side, I've got my digital cluster. So on the steering wheel, you can just kind of scroll through a few different things, whether that's your trip computer, whether it's your MPG and fuel economy, or if you want to have a route set in there, it would show up, and then all your safety features. Now what's awesome about this vehicle is all the safety equipment built in. So I have blind spot monitoring, I'm gonna have a rear cross traffic alert, I'm gonna have an adaptive cruise control system. There's so much safety built into this. If obviously you and your family are gonna be in the vehicle, you're gonna wanna make sure you're safe and comfortable when you're out on the road. And this system isn't intrusive, but it works really well to make sure you know what's going on around you. And if you're not quite sure or not paying attention, the system will kick in and actually can apply the brakes for you that way. So on the steering wheel, this is an 8-speed dual clutch. So you do have paddle shifters on here, but I haven't felt a shift since I started driving around, and I didn't really notice it. So that's how good this dual clutch is in the new Santa Fe. It is an 8-speed, and it is so quiet and comfortable in here. I was really blown away. So this is the second time I've driven one, and the first time I drove one, I was kind of giggling and laughing because that 2.5T, when you put your foot down, it gets up and moves, and you get a little bit of that turbo blow-off noise, which is kind of making it fun to drive. Now you also will have different drive modes down here, so you can select a few different ones, whether that's normal, sport, my drive, or snow. So how about interior comfort? Now the front seats in the Limited are going to be heated, they're going to be ventilated for the driver and the passenger, and I will have a heated steering wheel. As well, in the second row, those are also going to be heated seats for those passengers as well. But the driver cabin area, I like this vehicle because sometimes I struggle with getting low enough. I'm about 6'1", so I like to be a little bit lower when I drive, and I have a ton of headroom in here. Not just in the driver's seat, but I hopped in the second row, and I made sure to hop into that third row, and I was just surprised how much room I actually had in the third row. Now this particular one is going to have the bench seat and then the third row in the back as well. So I mean, if you've got this vehicle pretty much filled up, it's gonna seem like you're kind of cutting the space a little bit tighter than maybe the Palisade, but I didn't feel a huge difference. That third row is comfortable. There's a 120 volt plug back there. You've got the USB-Cs, like I said, and there's a little climate control knob as well. So there's a lot of comfort for the rear passengers. And then in the second row, I even had more headroom back there, and those seats are fully adjustable. If you're not hauling people around, you can pull those little handles or push the buttons and it'll actually kick, slide the seat forward. There's a whole bunch of ways, kind of like a Lego set, that you can figure out how to configure how you want that to set up. Whether you're hauling people or you need the cargo space, there's certainly a way to configure it that it works for you. Now, this one is a dual climate control as well up front here, so you can each set your temperature per zone, and they've left all the buttons as well as a volume knob up here, so it does make it convenient. It's not all built into the touchscreen. You can still use the little buttons and knobs if you need to adjust or move stuff, and that does make it easier as well to pay attention to the road ahead and not messing with the screen as much. All right, so we busted a U-turn there, and the turning radius is actually pretty awesome. This doesn't drive like a third row SUV. Typically when you hop into one, you think it's gonna be like a Suburban or a huge Yukon that you're pushing around, but this drives smaller than the actual footprint on the outside, if that kind of makes sense. So it's easy to drive, and with the 2.5T, it's got plenty of power to get you up and get you moving, and it's gonna get great fuel economy. Now this one is the H-Track, which is gonna be their all-wheel drive. So this is offered in front-wheel drive or the H-Track all-wheel drive, and this one is still gonna get 28 miles per gallon on the highway with the all-wheel drive system. So it looks nice today, but it's only about 20 degrees, and with snow expected in the forecast, I think the all-wheel drive is definitely an awesome feature to have in this vehicle. So some of the styling cues back to the exterior. This one is going to have the 20-inch wheels. If you bump up to the calligraphy, you can move up to a 21-inch wheel, but there's a ton of different colors and options, whether it's the interior or exterior, that really kind of sets the Santa Fe apart. There's a dark green color that looks incredible. I think this silver with those fat 5-spoke wheels on the outside does have a pretty distinct style that kind of catches your eye and looks pretty good. So usability through the second and third row, again, I was very surprised just how much room I had in that second row. And one of the other things that's kind of nice is you don't have to remove a child seat. You can actually just slide the whole seat forward. So the kid seats don't have to come out if people are hopping into that third row. You have to unhook them and move them. There's a lot of different sliding and functions, so you can leave that hooked up and still load up all the kids. And then cargo space, even with the third row up, you are going to get a little bit of space, and then just a little bit underneath the cargo floor as well if you need to stow anything away. But once you fold that third row down, you do get a lot of hauling space out of this vehicle as well. Now, what else is cool, if you're at a stop or going pretty slow, you can actually click the little camera button on the infotainment here, and that's going to pull up your 360 surround view camera. It is a crystal clear view at what's going on around you. You can see behind. This one you can also see out in front, and if you click it again, it actually does this cool spin. I don't know how it does it, but it shows a 360 view of the Santa Fe, and it does really help. Maybe you're in a tight garage spot or you're trying to see what's going on around you. That is a cool feature that really does help out in a pinch. So after spending some time now in the limited Santa Fe, it's awesome. It's so quiet in here. That was really one of the things that blew me away, is that it feels like it is more of that German luxury SUV feel and drive, where you don't feel the shifts and you just get more than enough power out of this turbocharged engine, plus the great fuel economy, these comfortable seats in here as well. I mean, the heated and ventilated seats make such a big difference, and I didn't even touch on how awesome the heated steering wheel has been today. When it's this cold and you hop in, this does have the remote start as well, so you can have the vehicle nice and toasty and ready for you when you jump in, and it does make a pretty big difference for your day-to-day life. But if you gotta think 95% of the time, is it you in the car, do you got the family with you? I think the Santa Fe really does deliver on all fronts. It's got the usability of the third row if you need it. This one also does add the dual sunroof up above, so it really opens it up, especially with this black, darker interior in here. That's a really cool feature you get with the limited. Wireless CarPlay, all of the good safety stuff. I think if you're in the market for a third row SUV, you have to get out, take one of these for a spin, and see what you think. So that was just a quick look and drive at the new Santa Fe. Now, if you have any other questions or you'd like to schedule a test drive for yourself, you can visit us online at Walser.com or stop by either one of our Hyundai stores. We'd be happy to help you out. Thanks for watching.